What's going on YouTube? JClarkTheJUMPER here, and this week's video I want to talk about my ACL story, how I overcame that injury, and how I went from having surgery to dunking 3 months after, and then just furthering my career beyond that. Just so we get started, let me tell you a little bit about the injury, how it happened, the process of recovering, and all of that went with it. So I tore it August 17th, 2014, playing at a celebrity basketball game in Venice Beach. We had played the first half and dunked, and there was supposed to be a dunk contest after, so I really wanted to play to get loose and get warm for the contest after. And there was a particularly long halftime because there was like a dance show and all these other things going on. So at the time I kind of cooled down, and I didn't do a good job of re-warming back up and doing what I needed to do. So third quarter started. I was kind of cold. I didn't want to start the game, so I was just sitting on the bench, and one of my teammates tweaked his hamstring, so he limped off the court. And as he's limping off, my celebrity coach at the time, Ron Artest, says, "Get in the game." So I run in the game, run up and down the court a few times, and one of my teammates is coming down, and he throws the ball off the backboard to me for a dunk. So instead of just catching it and dunking it, I'm gonna put a show on for the crowd. So I catch it, and I told myself I'm gonna go between the legs with it. So I caught it, put it between my legs, and I threw it in. But when I went in, it back rimmed, so it hit the back of the rim, and the ball bounced. So it just took off this way, and I'm watching the ball bounce this way. Mind you, my body is going this way. So that sets the scene on how the tear happened. I hit the ground, and you got my lower leg, my upper leg, and basically what happened, they said it was a subplex, so there was a dislocation, and then it went right back in. But when it did that, that's where your ACL is a ligament that runs through. It popped. That tore the ACL. I tore my meniscus and sprained every ligament in my knee at the time. And when I initially hit, I thought I Paul Georged my knee. If you know the injury, you know. So when I hit the ground, it didn't feel right. Something was the matter. I didn't want to look down at my leg, but when I did and I started feeling it, everything felt okay. And there was a physical therapist or a trainer on call there. She ran up and kind of started doing a test, basically elasticity of the knee. And whenever I see that now on football games or any sporting event, I can kind of tell based off of how they're looking or how the knee responds, whether it's torn or not. So it was kind of hard to tell, because when my ACL tore, all of the muscles in my leg just kind of locked up to kind of hold things in place. I guess it was a physiological response, so my body just kind of tightened up. So she really couldn't tell, because when she was doing the test, everything was just, nothing moved, everything locked up. And I was able to stand up on my own after. It hurt a lot. I was walking around, but it really hurt. And it was something I'd never experienced. So she recommended that I go in to, see my doctor. The first thing I did was I went to my physical therapist, who I had seen when I was competing in track and field. So I kind of wanted to see him first, just to see if he could kind of bypass the doctor, because when you go to the doctor, there's, protocol that you have to go through before you really get a real answer. And if they were gonna, if I were to go to a doctor and they were to send me back to my physical therapist, I would just go straight to him if possible. But I went in, and he told me I needed to go see a doctor because he explained how everything was locking up. So I went in, they gave me an x-ray. X-ray didn't really show much. but it was enough to get me the MRI. And then once I got the MRI, that confirmed that I had torn my ACL. And it was kind of interesting because during this whole time, so August 17th was when the game was a Sunday. That Monday, I got an email from the Harlem Globetrotters, and because I had tried out for the team earlier in the summer, and basically they told me I had made the team. So I was, super excited, and I knew that training camp was coming up, so I had to get my body ready. So throughout this whole process of going from the x-ray to the MRI to getting the results, which was like a 2.5 week process, I had been working as normal. So I had a pretty active job. I was, coaching kids, and I was running around doing dunk shows and things like that. I was jumping over people, doing my normal thing. I knew something was up though, because I wasn't. There was two ways I really knew something was wrong. The first was that I was strong, and I was good in a straight line. And I wasn't somebody that made a lot of moves anyway. Like when I play it, I just get downhill and dunk the ball. But I just couldn't move laterally. I couldn't change directions at all. And the second thing was I was working at a school as well, and they were going through a swim unit, and I had gotten in the pool, and I was sitting in the pool, and I remember just feeling disconnected. My leg just felt like it wasn't connected. Something felt wrong. So I kind of knew, but mentally I couldn't have a torn ACL because, I just made the Harlem Globetrotters. So it just had to be a bad sprain, which is kind of funny because my knee did not hurt until they officially told me it was torn. The next day I woke up from getting the MRI results officially, my knee was on fire. It really hurt. So that was kind of interesting. But I elected to have the surgery, October 2nd. And I had a patellar tendon graft reconstruction. So there's really 3 ways that you can get your ACL reconstructed, to my knowledge. This is 5 years ago, so maybe there's some special technique that I don't know now. But patellar tendon graft, hamstring graft, and cadaver graft. So the patellar tendon, they're going to take some of your patellar tendon and they graft it through where the ACL was. The hamstring, same thing. And cadaver, they go ahead and get an ACL from a dead person. So that way, and there's pros and cons with all the options. And reading, I was kind of paranoid and scared that I was going to make the wrong decision because there's always a high probability of re-tearing just with having the tear. And that's my first piece of advice, really, is just kind of do your research on your plan. What are you going to do? What do you want to do? Make sure you have 1,000 questions, even if you're annoying the doctor. I know doctors and PAs are probably irritated with me because I write down a list of things. But kind of talk to him and really let him know my situation. Dr. Donald Stevenson was my surgeon. He was amazing. My ACL has been strong. It's been, like I said, it's been 5 years. I actually tore my meniscus and had to go through the whole process of MRIs again, and they did the testing, and my ACL is still strong. So the patellar tendon graft was a really good choice for me. I don't regret it. I really love what happened, and obviously with the success that I've had with my ACL, I think I made the right decision. So ACL graft, patellar tendon graft for my ACL, and I went through the surgery. Ultimately, once I woke up from the surgery, the pain started to kick in, and I kind of was on my medication, doing what I needed to do. They'll put you on, I forget what I took on for my ACL. I know my meniscus, they gave me oxycodone, hydrocodone, something. I think it's like Percocets, basically. They'll put you on some sort of painkiller to manage pain, and that's really kind of just as needed. I was not smart with my ACL. I was kind of trying to be Superman, too early, and ultimately I ended up back in the hospital just because of the pain. I thought I was dying. It was kind of funny. I woke up and just had pain in my chest, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought like something went wrong with the surgery. I called my uncle, told him I was dying. I was legitimately scared for my life for the day. Got through the hospital, and basically they kind of just got mad at me and said, hey, you need to take your painkillers. They gave me some morphine and they sent me home. So managing that was kind of tough at first, but once I kind of got into the system, I was just making sure that I was taking the pain pills as needed, and for the first week or so, like it's at least with the ACL, it's going to be something that you need to do. Now, for my meniscus surgery that I just had, I never took any pain pills. Like they're still in the box, like the CVS little thing. I never even opened them up just because I didn't have the pain, and they gave me naproxen, which had a little bit of painkiller in it. Apparently it's supposed to be for inflammation, but yeah, so I did that with the ACL. I was on I think it was like the extra strength Tylenol or something like that. The big thing was just kind of managing everything that I took and taking it at the time that I needed to take it. Making sure I was eating right, because I was not working out. I knew that was going to be a big issue, so just making sure I got a little bit more in terms of vegetables, smoothies, and things of that nature, just to make sure that my body was in the best shape that it could possibly be in. Then once it was time to kind of get to physical therapy, luckily I was able to go to Airport Marina Physical Therapy, which is Dr. Charles Guyton. If you're in the Los Angeles, Inglewood area and you need a physical therapist for anything, he is the guy I recommend going to. My next piece of advice is kind of really do your research on your physical therapist, because you're going to spend a lot of time in physical therapy recovering and getting your body back to or better than where you were before. So now in Fresno, now that I've moved, one of the biggest things that I've been doing is kind of looking at the best physical therapy places, and there's a lot of good places. You just ultimately want to find the best fit for you. So whether it's what's going to fit in your schedule, and more importantly, I would say who's going to make you feel at home, because that feeling is key when you're at physical therapy, because it's a very difficult time. You don't want to go to a place where you're kind of just a number and they put you through the motion. For me, that's one of the things I hate the most when I go to physical therapy, and I'm just kind of like sitting there. I'm I feel like a number in a person in a factory. It's just like they're trying to get you in, trying to get you out. You want somebody that's going to make you feel like they care about you and they want to help you get better, because there are times where you get tested. I know even in my physical therapy situation, there was a time I don't know what was wrong with me. I just had a rough day. So like I'm in one of the rooms working out. I kind of just turned the lights off and just like put my hands in my face, and I was just kind of sad and beat up. And I know one of the PT assistants kind of came by and saw me, and they like were checking up on me, like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" But it kind of comes with the process of going from being an elite athlete to tearing your ACL and not being able to do simple things like bend your knee all the way, or walk up a flight of stairs without struggling. So with that physical therapy process, I just really was in tune with my physical therapist, and Dr. Guyton wrote a phenomenal plan, and we executed it perfectly. Take it, my next piece of advice really is going to be take it day by day. Don't worry about 4 months down the road. Don't worry about 2 days from now when you have another checkup. Like, focus on doing the best you can at recovering that specific day. And if you do that day in, day out, and do all the little things, RICE, rest, ice compression, elevation, or PRICE, with the painkillers or whatever prescriptions you're taking, painkillers, rest, ice compression, elevation, you're gonna put yourself in a better position. I firmly believe that there was no secret to why I recovered so fast. It was kind of, I did all the right things at the right time, all the time, even if I was tired, even if I didn't want to, even if, my knee hurt. So really just focusing on that. Pool training was really, really big for me. I really, once I got cleared to get in the water, spent a lot of time in the water because it's really good for the muscles in terms of resistance, and really great for the joints because it's low impact. Once I got cleared to kind of run on the sand, I was at the beach, running at the beach and just doing little things here and there. In terms of icing, iced all the time. I found cryotherapy and started doing cryotherapy. Typically with the cryotherapy treatments, there's that unlimited package, and I've seen it when I was in LA, and now that I'm in Fresno, they kind of have packages, and you just want to get that unlimited package because it's one of those that cryotherapy is not a one-time thing. It's something that builds on itself, and if you're constantly using it, you'll notice the benefits. So, and I, didn't have that comfortable full-time job like I have now, but it was still something I felt was worth the investment. It came out to $300 a month, and then when I did the math, because in Los Angeles it was open every day including Sunday, it came out to $10 a day, and that's very manageable. And I think now the place I go to, it's closed on Sundays, so it's a little bit more a day, but I have the support of a full-time job kind of backing it up. So it's definitely worth it, especially with any of the knee stuff. It helped me a lot, and something that I plan to continue to use even after I'm cleared, and it's something I used after I tore my ACL, and time after that. So cryotherapy was something that I found, and I really enjoyed using that, and recommend that. So that was that. One of the interesting things that I would say in terms of me dunking 3 months after tearing my ACL or having the ACL surgery, I had torn my right ACL, and I am a left-right jumper, meaning when I plant, going into a 2-foot plant, my left foot spends more time on the ground and the right doesn't. So there's a bigger impulse, and if I went straight up, I could apply that force, enough force to kind of jump without having too much pain. But when I dunk off one foot, I dunk off my left foot. So the big thing was just really focusing on landing and being smart with the landing. So once my physical therapist said, hey, you can go to the gym and do a couple dunks here and there, I was able to kind of get going and really push myself off of 1 foot. So I know 3 months after surgery, I went between the legs, I hit a knee spay, and I want to say 3.5 months to 4 months, I was hitting a little bit more fancy 1 foot dunks like Tamala and things of that nature. And then I would say 5 to 6 months when I got cleared to return back to the Globetrotters, I was kind of doing more or less the same dunks I was doing before. I know my first game back with the Globetrotters, I hit it at East Bay in warm-ups, and I punched it, and it was off 2 feet, and it felt good. So that was good. One of the things that I would say, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would spend, even though I got cleared, I'd spend more time in physical therapy. It was interesting. I saw something in the news talking about a doctor was looking at Klay Thompson's recovery process, because Klay Thompson had recently torn his ACL, and he was saying Klay shouldn't come back for this whole season and maybe take another season off. And I kind of agree with that. I'm not saying that I think he should take 2 full seasons off, but I think rushing back this season is not needed at all. Even though I think he'll be back to his level and be able to play elite level basketball by mid-season and be good to go. I just personally feel that I wasn't the same. Like I could play and I could do what I needed to do, but it took me about a full year from tearing the ACL to where I felt confident and I didn't think about, am I going to tear my ACL? Because that was one of the biggest fears when I stepped back on the court. You still have that injury fresh in your mind. You still feel like at any point you can tear it, and it can snap and it can go if you plant incorrectly or if you do something incorrectly. So my biggest advice is just kind of wait and be smart about your recovery. You want to be 125% ready before you even think about kind of getting back into your sport. That way you can kind of give yourself more time. But that's, I always like to say, the hardest thing to train in the gym in terms of your body is your ego. Because once you really start to train and really start to produce results, you don't want to stop, and your ego will get in your way of who you are and what you've done versus what you can really do. So just really listen to your body, take it day by day, and be smart with it. Those are kind of the things that I did within my ACL recovery. I didn't really experience any hiccups besides that one hospital visit 3-4 days after, but that was me being dumb. So yeah, that's my ACL story. If you guys have specific questions about the recovery process or anything that I left out, I really hope this kind of helps with your overall experience. If you're nervous about going into your surgery, what to expect, what tips you can get, just leave comments below. I'm willing to respond, and I want to help people because I get a lot of DMs about the experience, and I just want to make sure that you guys feel confident. Now, I always preach this: everybody's body is different. I truly think I'm blessed. Billy Dunkademics made a joke that I'm part Wolverine, and it's something I kind of have started to agree with just based off of the injuries that I've had in my life and how blessed I've been able to recover from them so fast and be able to get back to my normal level. But just really listen to your body, trust, take it day by day, all the little tips, cryo, running on the sand, the pool, a good PT, eating right, and you will be on your way back to your normal self. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna log off. And if you have questions, comment below, like and subscribe. Once again, thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Take care.